That's my secret, cat. I'm always angry.
Alright. I ran out of patience. On the roost!
Hey everyone, Captain, big fan of Spider-Man.
Avengers! Assemble.
Hello, Peter.
Hello and welcome to the Infinity Saga and Beyond an MCU fan podcast. My name is Jordan Wiegand, and today we'll be talking that Jeff Lemire run of Moon Knight, as this will be an episode called Get to Know Moon Knight, as we build up to the Moon Knight TV series, which is launching on March 30th. of 2022, running for 6 episodes until May 4th, and the series is going to be starring Oscar Isaac, Ethan Hawke, May Calamawy, and directed by Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, who are a directing duo, who are going to direct 2 episodes, and we're getting Mohamed Diab directing 4 episodes. Okay, so that's what we're building up to here. A lot of critics have actually already seen the first 4 episodes, and a lot of them said it's kind of like this Jeff Lemire run, which is Moon Knight Volume 8 from 2016, and that's what we are talking about. So for people that don't know, Moon Knight was created in 1975. First appearance was in Werewolf by Night number 32, which we're getting a Werewolf by Night special that's going to be directed by Michael Giacchino, who has done the music for Spider-Man and Doctor Strange and a few other movies. Just did the Batman for WB. But the character was created by Doug Moench and Don Perlin in the 70s. So his character has kind of changed a little bit more recently for people that don't know. And that's why this series was kind of more recommended, I think, because this run, I think, focuses a little bit more on the dissociative identity disorder and on the issues of, is it real or not? Which is something that it is something that kind of was announced when they announced the series in 2019, where Feige, said he's been, blessed by the god Khonshu, who is the Egyptian moon god, but that it wasn't, and then he said, or was he? Is kind of how Feige laid it out there. So this run, from what we've seen here, definitely, if you've read along with it, this was issues 1 through 5 of the 2016-2018 run of Jeff Lemire. I just finished reading the 5 issues, and I don't know if it's a really good jumping in point. Now, I'm not somebody that has read a lot of Moon Knight previously. I actually know the character from... the most experience I have with him is probably the Ultimate Universe, when I was reading Ultimate Spider-Man. But this is definitely an interesting character, and you always get the comparisons that people say, like, this is Marvel's Batman, though people say that about Daredevil as well. But, that this is kind of Marvel's Batman. And I can kind of see that. Now, these 5 issues don't really show us that, right? These 5 issues are a lot of focus on Mark Spector and his gang of friends trying to break out of the institution that they are in. And during this time, we're getting some crazy scenes where he is fighting the guards, but he thinks that they are, other people or other deities that are trying to keep him restricted. And he can see Khonshu, and Khonshu can talk to him. And I think this part is going to be in the show. I mean, we see him beating something up in a trailer in the bathroom. And I think that might be something like this. Now, again, we don't know if it's supposed to be true, real, or not real. I'm assuming, like any other Marvel story, this is going to be kind of the real deal. I don't think they're going to take us on this whole ride for it not to have ever happened. I'm not thinking that's how it's going to go. But in these 5 issues, we run into a few of his friends. Now, he has a friend that's been around in comics for a while, Jean-Paul Duchamp, who is referred to as Frenchie. And you've seen, if you've read the issues, Frenchie is there as well. But in the book here, Frenchie got bit in the neck and died. And he was one of the mental patients in the insane asylum with Mark Spector, Mr. Crawley, Gina Landers, Marlene. Now, again, we're not really sure if this actually happened, right? I think it's up to interpretation from these first 5 issues. Now, there may have been more stuff that happens later on in these issues that show, yes, this actually happened, or what they went through happened. Because when we get to the end of issue 5, and he wakes up in bed with Marlene, and he's back to being referred to as one of his other identities, Stephen Grant, who's the billionaire businessman. Now, in the trailer, Stephen Grant that Oscar Isaac is portraying is the museum worker. So it doesn't look like they're going to be translating this billionaire businessman identity over, unless if they attribute it to Mark or to Jake Lockley. Jake Lockley is the taxi cab driver version of Moon Knight. And Mark Spector is the Marine, who is the original character who then got who then died and then got revived by Khonshu and became the Fist of Khonshu. Makes sense? So in this series, in this run that we are reading, Frenchie dies. So does almost everyone that was with him breaking out of the asylum. Now, they all mention numerous times that they don't remember how they got into the asylum, but some of the characters can't see what Mark is seeing. So Mark is seeing the huge Egyptian pyramid in the middle of the city. He's the one that are seeing, the doctor and the orderlies as, evil or adversaries to him. But there then are times where they finally do see them. I think it was when Frenchie got bit in the neck that he said, as he's dying, I see them now. I can finally see them. And Gina starts seeing at one point the sand and all of that stuff. Now, they will end up at Gina's, diner that she runs. And she's going to stay behind, and we're not really sure what happened to her at all. Because, Mark is going to say that the sand is going to continue to climb. So the sand is going to eventually cover up Gina's diner. Marlene runs away with Moon Knight, who it's revealed when they get to the pyramid is that Moon Knight is there And we have Mark dressed up as Mr. Knight. So for people that don't know, Mr. Knight is a different character than Moon Knight. So Moon Knight's the one with the hood and the cape. Mr. Knight's the one with the suit. We are supposed to get both of them in the TV show as well. So there's probably going to be a little bit of variance with that. So kind of like the end turns out to be that Khonshu needs the body of Mark. And instead of that, Mark is going to leap off of the pyramid and die. Or what we think dies. But then he's going to wake up in bed, like we said at the end. So, and even the clever writing at the end where it says the end ? Right? He thinks everything's fine. I'm assuming, since there's more issues in this run, that is not the case. That something is going to happen to either make his mind continue to fracture, or he's going to realize that something is not right. And maybe Khonshu did take him over when he leapt off the pyramid, right? And I mean, that's kind of one of the ideas here. I'm probably going to continue this run and read because I'm interested now. But I do think it's a very tough spot for jumping in. So I do apologize that this is the one that I had assigned for this episode, because I feel like a lot of people were probably confused if they read along. If you weren't confused, or you enjoyed these 5 issues, let me know. It'd be great to have some more discussion about it. Now, where that stands, right, is he's back to being referred to as Steven at the end. He's confused as to why Marlene doesn't have any recollection of what had happened. But what is interesting is this whole time is, that when he's in the hospital, like if we go back to like issue 1 and 2, when he's in the hospital and he's, thinking he knows who he is, and, the doctor, Dr. Emmett, is showing him proof that he is somebody that is not Moon Knight. Moon Knight, we see him on the news, footage of him. And that he, has been here since he was a boy. That's a lie that they tell him. And that's when Khonshu tells Mark and explains that, Emmett is an avatar like him, who's connected to a god named Emmett. So there you go, how closely that is. And that's when, they break out, and Mr. Crawley is actually going to give up his there's a price for when they get on the little raft, which as Gina sees it as an actual just train. So again, there's like a real life balance to it, right, where what they're seeing can still be done in the real world, but when you open your eyes, you see it for what it really is and get to see these otherworldly things that are happening to Mark. But yeah, so those are the first 5 issues right there. I think we're going to see some of this type of stuff in the show. And what I mean by that is we're probably going to see Oscar Isaac as Mark or Steven. He starts off as Steven, it looks like. Kind of come to terms with what's going on. And we're probably going to be able to get this a little bit where it'll work a lot easier for viewers who are not familiar. Is that it's going to probably be broken down a little easier, meaning in this comic run, Mark already knows everything. He already knows he's Moon Knight. He already knows all this information. Where we're coming into it in the show, it looks like, is that Stephen Grant does not know any of this. He doesn't know that he has a personality named Mark Spector. He doesn't know that that has gone on with Moon Knight. It seems that we're going to be able to enter in to this world and have an entrance point where Mark may have been doing this for years, but Steven is just now finding out about this. And that can kind of help us lead into it's being explained to the main character, but it's because that main character personality doesn't know it, while another one does. So when it's time to flip the switch or switch over to Mark, we could be caught up. And then Mark can do whatever he needs to do. If he needs to fight somebody, if he needs to, get Steven out of a jam, if he needs to, or, if Moon Knight, I guess you'd say Moon Knight, not really Mark, right? Because Mark is still a different identity, I guess. But I think that's where we're kind of going with this. I think it's going to be a really good introduction to this, better than the comic was, obviously. Comics are difficult to kind of jump in. I've talked about it on some other podcasts, on this feed, on the DC one, that I've been getting some DC comics that I've been picking up every Wednesday, and I feel like, I feel like DC has easier entrance points for some of their comics, for sure. But sometimes, I jumped into this one arc that was going on that I had no idea what's going on. And then, of course, the way that they try to get you to buy other titles is, like DC has this event going on right now called War on Earth 3, where it started out on a War on Earth 3 book, issue 1, goes into Suicide Squad, issue 13, then goes into Flash 780, I think. Then goes into Teen Titans Academy. Then goes into War for Earth 3 Part 2, issue 2, and then ending on another one like that. So that's kind of like how these things work out. Sometimes it's a very hard thing. Like, I had just signed up for Suicide Squad because I really enjoyed Peacemaker and the movie Suicide Squad, and I wanted to kind of see those characters. But the first issue, when I went to go pick them up, was that Part 2 of War on Earth 3. So then I had to go find War on Earth 3 Part 1 to kind of understand the story. And it feels like maybe there was something before these 5 issues that would have helped to introduce this character a little better, that we would kind of understand where he's coming from, when we're seeing him. But I do think it's going to be the sort of vibe with, is it really happening or not when it comes to the spiritual possession or, the Fist of Khonshu type thing. Because that's a balance you can kind of have with Moon Knight. Is he just a vigilante? Is Mark just crazy and a vigilante dressing up as Moon Knight that thinks he's been possessed or, granted this ability? Or did it really happen? I think that's still up for interpretation. But in this book, it was a lot of, are you seeing this type of thing? And I believe it did all happen. But then the ending throws you a curveball where he's back into the regular world, back to himself, and that might be because he declined the offer from Khonshu. And I'm sure that's explained in probably the next 5 issues as we try to figure out, how they're going to eventually merge back together and become Moon Knight again. There's probably a run there with that kind of stuff. So I think if we want to read more of them and look ahead, we can do that. I think for sure if I read another 5 of these, I can come back on here and discuss more of this with you, if you've followed along. If you haven't followed along but want to, I honestly recommend the best way to read comic books right now is supporting your local comic shop. That's huge. That is huge. If you want to dip your toe into comics and haven't really read a lot of comics before, the best way is through Hoopla, if you have a library card. Hoopla is a digital app that you sign into your library card account. It'll ask you for your, county and your library card information. It verifies it. And you don't need it just for comics, but what the thing is with Hoopla, though, it's not individual issues. Like I said in the last episode when I was leading up to this one, is that, you would have to read Volume 1, which is issues 1 through 5. And that's why I picked just 1 through 5, is because that's the volume that's tied together. If everybody was reading it off Marvel Unlimited, maybe we could have said the first 7, right? First 8. But this did at least kind of have like a semi-ending here, where we could kind of wrap it up and talk about it. So I recommend Hoopla. But you can also read just regular digital books on there as well. You can read, I think you can get audiobooks and movies even. I think you might be able to rent them. I haven't done those. I used to use it just for comics. What I've also done now is I've signed up for DC Universe Infinite, I think is what it's called now. And I've signed up for Marvel Unlimited. And I get the yearly plans for those, so it's like $60 or $70 a year each. I think Marvel's cheaper. I think it's like $60, and it's like $70 for DC. And I just read a whole bunch of those. But the thing is with some of these digital apps is, and the reason why comic shops are still so important, and I have a local comic shop that I like to go to, is because you can't get like recent stuff in those. I think Marvel Unlimited is at a 3-month rolling period right now, so if it came out 3 months ago, it should be going onto the app. Well, I think DC is at a 6-month. Yeah, I think DC is at 6 months right now. So I started getting these comics because I wanted to read the Death of the Justice League arc that is coming up, but I didn't want to wait 6 months for Dark Crisis and this Death of the Justice League issue. So I figured I would, go ahead and just get some comics at the shop, sign up for a monthly pool list. But if you don't want the commitment of that kind of stuff yet, Hoopla is great. If you really enjoy reading on Hoopla, you want to read more recent things or individual issues, then I recommend signing up for Marvel Unlimited or DC Universe Infinite. From there, if you get really into it as well, and you want more physical comics, what I started doing before I started buying individual issues is buying the trades. Trade paperbacks are the ones that combine those, like what we read here, Volume 1, issues 1 through 5, where it puts all of those into a paperback, magazine size type of comic. And some of those you can find used at your local comic shop pretty cheap. My local comic shop has like 50% off the list price if you get a used one there. Ollie's Bargain Outlet, if you have an Ollie's near you, I think they're an East Coast thing, but I got some of these Batman comics, some Marvel comics. I get, anywhere between $2.99 to pretty much like $9.99 for some of those. And I recommend those instead of single issues, just to like get the full story if you wanted to kind of sit down and read a story at once. And I think really, once you have committed yourself to all or any of those and you really enjoy it and you want to read more up-to-date stuff, I recommend single issues and trying to find a good jumping in spot right now. I didn't sign up for any Marvel comics during my time so far because I don't know of a good point to jump in yet. I'm thinking this Ant-Man event that they're going to be doing, I think it's like 4 issues. That might be a good spot if you're a big Ant-Man fan, like shout out Jack. I would say usually events might be a good time to jump in. But I don't really know. Pretty much what I would say before you sign up for a pool list is maybe going into your local comic shop, looking at their new issues, the new issues on the wall, and seeing, like, when you pick up, like, Avengers, or you pick up Justice League, and it says, like, this Justice League issue I have right here is part 3 of the Leagues of Chaos. Well, I wouldn't recommend starting right then. You would want to go back and pick up at least issue 1 and 2 of that run. So maybe that's best, is trying to figure out, like, if you see something that says part 4 of 5. Okay, well, maybe I'm not signing up for it this week. Maybe I wait until after part 5. Sign up and be able to start with the new storyline. Or, you find the back issues of those 5, those 4 that have already come out, and then you sign up for issue number 5 coming out. Those are the ways I would recommend. And I know this wasn't what this episode was originally about, but I know that there's been people before that have wanted to get into comics and don't really know how to do it. And I would even recommend, if you go to a local comic shop, asking somebody that works there. They, usually are big fans too, and will be able to tell you where to start, or, what you're looking for, or give you recommendations. Sometimes what not to start in is like a current run. Maybe they're going to tell you to go find, a really great run. Like, people will probably say Ultimate Spider-Man. Ultimate Spider-Man is a great jumping on point. Is a great jumping on point because it was a launch of a new universe in Marvel Comics, and it is Peter in high school the whole time. It is a great run. Highly recommend Ultimate Spider-Man. And actually, that'll be coming soon. I talked to the Spider-Man Book Club, which is launching in April. I've already recorded an episode with them talking about Ultimate Spider-Man issues 1 through 7, which is volume 1 of that story. If you wanted to look that up on Hoopla or on the Marvel app, issues 1 through 7 of Ultimate Spider-Man. And it is one of my favorite Spider-Man stories, and I was very thankful to be able to talk about it on there. So definitely recommend, looking at maybe new universes to launch into like that, like an Ultimate Universe, and then maybe finding new places to jump in at later. But I'm really excited about Moon Knight. It's coming soon. I've heard similarities to it being like an Indiana Jones type of show with some action and some great stuff. So I'm really excited to see how that goes. Until then, we are going to be probably not releasing a new episode before the show launches. I'm not sure if I'm going to have a guest on for the first episode at least. It might just be me breaking down that first Moon Knight episode. But if you watch Moon Knight, I'm probably going to record it not directly on Wednesday when it launches, probably on like the Friday or Saturday. So if you watch it and want to send in your feedback, you can send us your thoughts, and I can spend some time reading that instead of having a guest on this week. But you can email us marvelplusrecaps@gmail.com, Twitter @TOInfinitySaga, Facebook.com/InfinitySagaBeyond. That's how you can reach us. let us know what your thoughts were on Moon Knight Episode 1. But that'll wrap us up here as we get ready to ramp up for Moon Knight Season 1. Or maybe just this is all there is. And then Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness in early May. So hope everyone enjoyed reading these issues, and I hope everyone enjoys this premiere coming up next week, and we'll catch you then.